What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was banished and returned to judge the leaf? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. The morning of Naruto's departure, Kakashi had heard the news concerning the fate of his two students. He wasn't all that surprised to hear of Sasuke's sentence. The punishment for any ninja caught abandoning their village was always steep. Naruto, however, was a completely different story. Since their mission to Nami no Kuni, he had been showing more and more promise as a Konoha shinobi. Even though he was still an idiot, Kakashi was still proud of him. He knew Naruto would undoubtedly be depressed over his punishment, so he stopped by Ichiraku and got 4 bowls to go. 2 miso, a pork, and a beef, each with the works. As he approached Naruto's apartment, he was trying to think ways to cheer him up. He didn't know how long it would until Jiraiya would be back in the village and didn't want Naruto spending however much time he had left locked away in his apartment. Kakashi finally arrived at Naruto's door and took a deep breath before knocking. "Hey Naruto," he called, but there was no answer. He knocked again, thinking his student didn't hear him. "I've got your favorite ramen with me," Kakashi stated, listening for reaction, but none came. Strange, even if he was depressed, that should have got some kind of reaction, he thought. Wondering what was up, he quickly picked the lock and entered the apartment. He entered Naruto's kitchen and sat the takeout on his table, before he began searching the apartment. After looking around, he noticed several hints that told him Naruto hadn't been home for some time. Instead of waiting, he placed the food in the refrigerator and left the apartment, quickly re-locking the door and disappearing in the swirl of leaves. Kakashi was starting to get worried. He spent a little over an hour and a half searching for Naruto at his usual haunts, but still no Naruto. Not knowing where else to look, he turned to someone he knew could find him. "Kachiyose no jutsu, summoning jutsu," he said. "Hey Kakashi, do you want to feel my pads?" Pakun asked. "I've been trying this new shampoo and conditioner that does wonders for the coat." Kakashi's eyes smiled as he crouched down to Pakun. "Maybe later, I need your help looking for Naruto." "Do you remember his scent?" he asked. "It's hard to forget," he cringed as he sniffed the air, ramen, red bean soup, and farts. Kakashi just smiled, not knowing how to respond to that. "I got him this way," the little dog declared as he ran off. They ran for 10 minutes through the village and deep into the forest of death to the entrance of an old bunker where Pakun stopped. Kakashi didn't like the air the place gave off and was instantly put on high alert as he took a step forward. "Hold up Kakashi," Pakun warned. "I know," he said as they entered. They carefully walked the corridor, heading down further and further underground, until Pakun stopped at a heavily rusted steel hatch. Kakashi slowly opened the door and peered inside. After taking a quiet look, he pulled his head out and quickly wrote something down in a scroll. "Take this straight to the Hokage," he ordered, and gave the scroll to Pakun. Pakun took the scroll and ran away, leaving Kakashi. After Pakun took off, Kakashi created 4 shadow clones to scout the area while he continues to search the base. Tsunade's office. Tsunade sat in her office facing 4 mountains of paperwork, several tick marks pulsing on her forehead. "Damn it," she yelled. Shizune ran into the office after hearing her master shout. "Shizune," she called. "I'm already here." "Tsunade-sama," Shizune voiced her presence. "Anbu recruitment report, revised patrol schedule, quarterly academy progress report, Jonin promotion exam requirements," she calmly stated while pointing to the stack of papers on her left, before facing the larger stack on her right. "Sanitation and disposal procedures, public decency standard of kunoichi attire, beautification and restoration of Konoha Public Park." She paused and looked up to Shizune. "Now with stack sounds like something the fucking leader of a hidden ninja village should be concerned with," she asked rhetorically. "Well, aside from the other 2, the kunoichi decency standard sounds like something you should address," she stated meekly. "The only ones worried about that are the one don't have anything to show off," she answered confidently while huffing out her chest. Shizune looked to Tsunade's chest and then to hers. Before Tsunade could blink, Shizune was crouched down, cradling herself in a corner with a depressing aura looming around her. "Sorry, but if you wanted men to pay more attention to you, just change your outfit a little," Tsunade said, trying to cheer her up. "You're almost as self-conscious as the Hyuga heiress." "Like that makes me feel any better," Shizune cried as Pakun appeared in a poof of smoke on Tsunade's desk. Godem-sama, I have a message from Kakashi, the little ninkin informed. She opened the scroll and quickly read it over. Her expression suddenly became grim. Neko, Tora, she muttered as the two unseen agents appeared. Hokage-sama, they both answered in unison. Neko, assemble your squad, then retrieve Ibiki and Anko and take them to these coordinates. She handed them a note with the location on it. The two agents memorized it. Tora, assemble a tracker squad and meet me at the same location, she ordered. Hi, they both responded, them vanishing. Shizune, let's go. She nods and they vanished in a puff of smoke. Back at the bunker, Kakashi had just finished marking the path to the room he and Pakun located, and was standing entrance waiting for orders from Tsunade. One of the shadow clone he created had dispelled itself after locating a trail leading deeper into the forest behind the Hokage monument. Kakashi, report, he was brought out of his clone's memory by Tsunade's order. Ma'am, Kakashi answered as they entered bunker. Kakashi reported everything that he experienced from the moment he entered the bunker with Pakun, then what his clones discovered. He finished his report just as they approached a familiar door. He reached for the door and stopped just inches away. What wrong? Tsunade asked. Nothing, my last clone just dispelled, Anko and Ibiko are here, Kakashi explained as he opened the door. The instant the door opened, the foulest smell imaginable flew into their noses. Shizune covered her mouth and nose, while Kakashi and Tsunade were mildly taken aback. How can you take that smell? She asked, slightly gagging the words. This is fairly common smell, but you never quite get used to it, Kakashi answered. Where is that? I've never smelled anything like this before, she asked again. Anbu headquarters, where rookie interrogators practice their skills, he stated as he and Tsunade trained the walls of the room, circling the bottomless chair in the center. So, is this an Anbu outpost or something else? Shizune thought out loud. It could be, answered a deep voice from the door. My predecessor once told me about hidden bunkers Anbu once used before the First Great War. Ibiki, what do you make of this? Tsunade asked the scarred master interrogator. Purely amateur, no self-control whatsoever. This looks more like someone with a severe dominatrix fetish, he explained while examining the chair. Reminds of Anko when she was just starting out. I wasn't this bad, she huffed with a red tinge on her cheeks, at least I cleaned up after myself. And she didn't deny the dominatrix fetish, they all thought, staring at her. What? She wondered. Godem-sama, I request we send for Hunter Nin to locate whoever was in this room and someone from the forensics division to do a full analysis of this bunker. Paying special attention to this room, Ibiki requested. Tsunade smirked as 7 Anbu appeared at the door. You heard him, 2 of them nodded and stood up. One agent with a wolf mask started sniffed the air, while the monkey-masked one touched the wall behind her. I'm picking up 9, no 10 different scents, Wolf stated. This blood smells familiar, but where? Wolf thought. Yes, my insect also found 10 signatures, Monkey concurred, they're following a trail. Ma'am, I'm positive this blood belongs to the blonde in Kakashi Taiko's genin cell. Wolf answered without a shred of doubt. Shizune was shocked to hear he was here and had the expression to match. So, Naruto was here. Everyone turned to Tsunade. You were right, Kakashi. Tsunade-sama, what does this mean? Shizune asked. Both Ibiki and Anko wondered as well. Naruto's been missing since the council meeting last night, everyone. But Kakashi was surprised to hear of his disappearance. Kakashi went to visit him this morning and found he hadn't been home. After searching the village, he used one of his summons to track him and it lead him here, she explained. So that means last he was probably. Shizune was fearing the worst. We can't think about that now, first we need to find him and anyone else who was in this room, Tsunade explained. Ibiki, you and Anko will continue investigating this place. Tora, you and your team will track down all the people you picked up in here. Neko's team will assist in the capture. Kakashi, you will be in charge of the search operations. Shizune, you will send for a forensics team to assist in the investigation, then report the findings directly to me. Is everyone clear on their assignments? Ma'am, they all answered. Good, this is an S-rank mission. No one is to know of this, Tsunade said as everyone left to begin their assignments. Back in the village, Haruno residence. Sakura hadn't left her room since Sasuke and Naruto had been admitted to the hospital. She felt horrible for what she said to Naruto earlier that week. Since that night, she was plagued with nightmares of his form and hardly slept. Each time she closed her eyes, that event played over and over in her mind, and she still couldn't figure out why she acted that way towards him. Truthfully, Naruto did scare her badly that night. His image covered in blood and burned flesh frightened her no end, but his eyes scared her the most. Those crimson eyes growing in the night terrified her and sparked emotions she never had towards her friend: confusion, fear, hate, and an impending sense of death. The last time she felt like that, she and Sasuke were facing down that Kusa-ku no Ichi in the Forest of Death. She knew Naruto wouldn't do a thing to hurt her, but the way his eyes glowed told her otherwise. After being constantly nagged by that little voice in her head for days on end, she was finally able to gather up the courage to face him. She showered and dressed in her usual shinobi attire, that doubled as her civilian clothes, and left her house. On her way to the hospital, she passed a familiar restaurant and remembered it was Naruto's favorite place to eat, Ichiraku Ramen. She checked her pockets and was relieved she had enough to get both her teammates gifts. She got Naruto 2 bowls of miso ramen and Sasuke some large omusubi with okaba, before continuing back towards the hospital. The walk to the hospital felt like an eternity, since she was replaying that night in her head, but she finally arrived. Sakura approached the reception desk where 3 nurses were talking with Dr. "Excuse me," Sakura tried to get their attention. "Yes, miss," a nurse answered. "I'm here to see Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki." The doctor and nurses stiffened hearing those names, which didn't go unnoticed by Sakura. "I'm sorry, miss, but Uchiha-san is not allowed visitors, and Uzumaki-san." The doctor paused for a moment. "He was released yesterday." "I see. Is there any way I can see Sasuke?" The doctor shook his head. "Okay, but can you make sure he gets this?" she asked, placing a bag on the desk in front her. "I'll see what I can do," he said, slightly unsure he could persuade the Anbu. "Thank you," she said as turned around to leave. Disappointed she couldn't see both of her teammates at the same time, she began looking for the one who already recovered. The first place she looked was his apartment. She rushed to Naruto's apartment as fast as she could. Naruto always complained that the glory that is Ichiraku must be savored fresh and praised for posterity. She giggled lightly, remembering his words. She didn't think that he even knew what the word posterity meant. It didn't take her more than 5 minutes of rooftop leaping to get to his apartment building. "Naruto, it's Sakura, I need to talk to you." She knocked, but no answered. "I brought you some Ichiraku, come on, open up." There was still no response. Sakura sighed. "Ramen's getting cold." Back with Kakashi's group at the cliff in the forest, Wolf sniffed the air. "Yeah, one scent breaks off here. They likely tossed someone off the edge." "The other scents head back towards the village," Monkey commented. "We'll have to split up here," Tora said. "Any objections, Kakashi Taiko?" "No, Wolf and I will follow the scent that breaks off here." "Tora, you take the other teams and capture the others," Kakashi ordered. "Catch up with us after the captures." "Neko, send a message to Tsunade-sama explaining the development," Kakashi instructed. Neko acknowledging his orders and began going through hand signs. "Kachiyose no jutsu, summoning jutsu," she said, and a hawk poofed into existence. She tied a message to its leg. "Take this to the Hokage," she said as it took off. They watched the bird fly over the tree line. Monkey stepped forward and lifted her hand to Kakashi. A single insect flew out of his sleeve to Kakashi's shoulder. "That is a queen, it releases pheromones that my insects can lock in on. She'll help us locate you," she explained. Kakashi nodded. Then he and Wolf jumped over the edge and started running along the side of cliff as Tora and Neko's squads leapt into the trees. Sometime later, back in the village, unknown apartment. A man in his early 20s, ruffled black spiky hair, with lazy drooping eyes, rose out of bed, grabbed his headband from the nightstand next to the bed, and tied it to his forehead. "MMMNN, Tetsuro, come back to bed," called a feminine voice hidden under a blanket behind him. "You sure Mikan-chan? The Kyuubi brat looked like you wore out the 4 of you last night." The woman rose out of bed naked with a smile on her face. She strolled over to him, swaying her hips, and stopped right in front of him, before grabbing the back of his neck and pulled herself up to his ear, resting her chin on his shoulder. "Don't mistake, we just wanted to make sure his first time was." She paused as she felt the effects of her words rub against her inner thigh and smirked. "Unforgettable. You're insatiable, you know that, right?" His remark laced with sarcasm. I can't help it, that kind of thing always gets me going. She moaned as Tetsuro pulled her closer to him. At least I'm not as bad as Kurumi or Ryofu. Those two can't their hands off each other when they get worked up. He quirked his head up at the thought of those two going at it. That would something to see. He grinned as she looked up at him and the lecherous smile now adorned on his face. Picking up on his devious little thought, she decided to tease him a bit more. You know, if you're a good boy, she traced his cheek with her index finger, I might let you join us next time. Her words set off a mental explosion of possibilities and he was bombarded with images of the three women panting under him in each worthy positions. The stimulation proved too much to bear. He attacked Miken's neck. He began licking and sucking on her collarbone, which was exactly what she wanted. All she needed to do now was guide him back to the comfort of the still warm bed, or the floor, whichever came first. Just as she accomplished her goal and got him back in bed, without his pants, a loud knocking was heard at his door. They chose to ignore it for more pressing matters. The banging at his door continued, until he heard someone speak. Tetsuro Inaba, the Hokage has an urgent mission for you, said the unknown voice. The mood was gone instantly and he let out a disappointed sigh as he rose off of her. Sorry, we'll have to pick back up later, he apologized while quickly getting dressed, before rushing out of room, leaving a dumbfounded Miken. She had no idea how to react, but the dampness between her legs reminded her of her current situation and she became extremely irritated. Back with Tetsuro, he was apologizing to the ninja sent with the message. God damn it, came a voice from within the apartment. Tetsuro rubbed the back of his head and smiled as the messenger who only quirked an eyebrow. Was that Miken Kazabaki? Asked the messenger. Tetsuro nodded to her, still rubbing his head. Good, she is to report to Ibiki, the messenger relayed, then walked away. Tetsuro walked back inside and shut the door. Unknown rooftop several building away. The messenger appeared behind several Anbu agents. Did it go according to plan? Neko asked. The messenger was engulfed in a plume of smoke and revealed another cat-masked Anbu. According to plan, Taicho, she replied. Well done, Kamachi, Tora added, those are the last two. Kamachi perched herself between Neko and her partner Toa. They waited until their targets left the building and separated. Neko and Tora's teams ambushed the Tetsuro out of sight of civilians and other shinobi, and Miken practically walked herself into custody. She never expected a thing until she saw Ryofu, Sato, Junpei, Mao, Jiro, Kurumi, and Zen chained up in a cell. When she turned to try and escape, she was blocked by the two squads sent to capture them. Panicking, she tried to run the opposite direction of the captains, but was knocked out by one of Kamachi's senbon hitting her behind the neck. She and Tetsuro were chained up to the wall next to Mao. After chaining them up, the squads disappeared to report back to Tsunade. Tsunade's office. Tora and Neko appeared in the office with their teams. They saw Kakashi and Wolf standing in front of them. Tsunade was sitting behind her desk with a distraught look on her face, with Shizune looking quite unnerved. I see the situation, just got more complicated, Tsunade frowned. Tora report. Tora stepped forward. Ma'am, all targets have been secured. They're being held in an interrogation cell, Tora reported. Good, Ibiki can take care of them then, Tsunade sighed. Tora, as of this moment you and your team will be assigned a long-term A-ranked mission to search for Naruto Uzumaki. Wolf will lead you to the border. A message has already been sent to Jiraiya, who will be following shortly. They vanished after she assigned them. The rest of you are dismissed. The last four Anbu disappeared. But Kakashi was wondering why he wasn't assigned to search for his student as well and stayed. Godem-sama, why wasn't I assigned to the search as well? He but yelled, he's my student, I know him better than the trackers. I could help. That is the problem. She stopped his pitch, you're too close to this. I know you wish you were available for the Sasuke's retrieval mission, but the fact that you are close to Naruto can endanger the mission and we don't have that time to make mistakes. Besides, I can't have you leaving the village so soon. Why's that? He asked. Too many would take notice of your absence. She paused. If certain council members catch wind that Naruto's missing, who knows what might happen. Kakashi caught on to who she was referring to and thought about the results of his sudden long-term absence affecting the search efforts, none of them pleasant. Kakashi backed off and made for the door. I understand, but I'd like to be kept up on the situation. Tsunade nodded. I also have one more question, if I may? What is it? She consented. Kakashi turned his head, so his eye could look at her. Why did you push for Naruto's banishment? He asked as Shizune looked to her as well, wondering the same thing. I'll explain that when we find Naruto, she said it that as if she was promising that to herself more than him. Okay, was all he could saw as he left her presence. Tsunade then reached under her desk and pulled out a large bottle of sake. Tsunade-sama, is this really the time? Shizune voiced her outrage of her master's habit. If it isn't, then I don't know when, Tsunade said before taking a big gulp, besides you probably need this more than I do. Shizune couldn't argue her statement. Unknown location, the following morning. A groggy, blue eyes slowly opened to see an unfamiliar ceiling. He tried to get up, but his body wouldn't respond. He scanned his surrounding to try to figure out where he was, but nothing looked familiar. He was wrapped up comfortingly in a blanket, when he suddenly felt his resting place jerk upward, allowing him to get quick look around. He saw rugs, folded tents and posts, barrels, and crates around him. He glanced to his left to see a tuft of red hair in an adjacent bed wrapped up and constrained similar to himself. He figured he must be in a merchant wagon or maybe some other kind of caravan. He tried to move his body once more, but still got no reaction. He thought back to what happened prior to his current predicament. The last thing he remembered was collapsing on a dirt road with a girl on his back, not much to go on. I see you're awake, young man, a voice called from by his feet. He could barely see where it came from. Who's there? He asked tiredly. An elderly woman strode up on his left between the beds with a younger woman, so he could see her. The woman had her eyes closed and looked to be somewhere in her late 60s, while the girl appeared around 20. Both of them wore dark blue kimono, styled similar to Shizune's, with blood-red sashes. Who are you? He asked. Where am I? It's polite to first introduce yourself, before asking for someone else, she retorted. He kept his mouth shut and only stared back at her. The woman took in his expression and the lifeless eye the boy had. Relax, young man, you and your companion are safe here, she sighed. Companion? The woman pointed to other bed. Oh, she's not your friend, she wondered. I've never seen her before, he stated. She decided to save this topic for when the sleeping redhead woke up. Anyway, my name is Chigusa Sagino, and this is my granddaughter Arisa, she introduced, and this the Spiraling Emotion Entertainment Troupe. Entertainment troupe, what the hell's that? He asked. We're a group of traveling performers. We operate like a traveling circus, only we do other types of shows as well. Anything from concerts to classical theater, Arisa explained proudly. He didn't detect a lie in her words. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, he answered. Arisa was shocked to hear this boy's name. He noticed her shocked expression, but the elder woman didn't seem fazed at all. I see, that explains the seal on your stomach, she gathered. Naruto's eye flinched when she mentioned it. How do you know about that? He glared at her. Arisa made eye contact with him and felt a shiver run down her spine. Chigusa walked next to his bed and gently pulled the blanket away from him, then placed her hand behind his back. Arisa, help me, she ordered. She complied and helped Naruto into setting possession. Naruto looked down and saw his body almost completely wrapped in bandages. Chigusa hovered her right hand over his exposed torso. His seal reacted and revealed itself. He went wide-eyed at what just happened, before she removed her hand and the seal concealed itself again. How? He wondered. She smiled kindly at him. Anyone proficient in the ways of Fuinjutsu can perform something like this. He eyed her suspiciously. I know about that seal on the back of your neck as well, young lady. All three turned their attention from Naruto's now seal-less stomach to the redhead laying in the next bed fully conscious. Her brown eyes flickered between Naruto, Chigusa, and Arisa. Naruto knew she must have been in a similar state as him, if the bandages covering her and their prior conversation was any indication. The fuck y'all looking at, she said. I already have an idea of what both you and his seals do, but I'd like to hear it from you, Chigusa asked. Fuck you, you old bitch, the redhead scowled. Maybe you'd answer if I give you this back. Chigusa reached behind her back and revealed a pure white flute. Tayuya's attitude instantly changed from annoyed to supremely pissed. Give that back, you half-died, disease-reddened, gray-haired thundercunt, she shouted as she struggled against the constraints. Arisa, seeing her agitation, tried to hold her down. Calm down, you'll only aggravate your injuries. Arisa struggled to keep the redhead in place. Get off me you, Shotokan pedophile slutbag, Tayuya insulted again. Excuse me, she was surprised to hear the irate girl call her that of all things. Don't play innocent, I saw you eyeing fucktards earlier, she reasoned. Arisa blushed at the implication. Naruto let out a sigh of relief, at least knew it was still there. Anyway, I believe you have something to explain us. The old woman spun the flute around her fingers for added effect. Tayuya huffed, she hated being on the losing side of fight more than anything. Fine, it's a cur. And please don't leave anything out, I can tell if you're lying or using half-truths. Contrary what you may believe, you both couldn't be in safer company, the old woman tried to reassure them. My name Tayuya and I was one of Orochimaru's elite guards, the seal on my neck is the curse seal of Danzumaru. It gives me more chakra, increases my strength, stamina, speed, endurance for a while, and if need be it'll change the way I look to compensate, afterwards I'm too weak to move, Tayuya explained. I see, so you are Tayuya of the North Gate. What is your family name? Chigusa inquired. Don't have one, that flute is the only thing that's really mine, she said. Tell me Tayuya-san, do you know any sound-based jutsu? Chigusa asked. Tayuya tensed at the mention of her specialty. Besides that pineapple rat bastard and his fan-fucking dyke of a girlfriend, no one escaped from a fight with her alive. The bingo book page on her only had her name, age, and picture. Why do you care? She asked. Chigusa sat down on her bed and faced Tayuya. My dear, sound jutsu are extremely rare in this day and age, but before the formation of the hidden villages, during the Sengoku period, they were fairly common, she answered. Your flute is one such method used to employ it. Tayuya reasoned that she just deduced it, because of the flute and a few history lessons. Shit, sound jutsu are my specialty, she answered. Thank you, she said before facing Naruto in the other bed. Now young man, you said your name was Naruto. Uzumaki, Naruto Uzumaki, he clarified. My apology Naruto-san, you said Uzumaki, was that your father's name? She wondered. I don't know, I never knew my parents, he answered. I'm sorry for asking, but where were you born? From your appearance I'd say Kumogakure in Kaminari no Kuni. Her baiting didn't go unnoticed by Tayuya or Arisa. Konohagakure in Hai no Kuni, he corrected. I see, I knew of one Uzumaki in Hai no Kuni, but she died nearly 13 years ago during the Kyuubi attack, she informed. If you are an Uzumaki, you might be her son. Naruto's eye widened at that bit of knowledge. I was born the day the Kyuubi attack, cough, he overexerted himself. So you would be the right age, she held her chin. Tell me, have you noticed anything strange about your chakra, like it changing its properties or strength? Naruto caught onto the bit about the Kyuubi. Not really, he thought back, but noticed something strange. I don't remember. Well, can you tell us why you were so far from your village when we found you? They all wanted to know that. His mood darkened when she said that. I was banished from Konoha, that surprised all of them. I don't understand, that seal tells me you're a. Chigusa paused and composed herself. Can you explain the circumstances of your arrival? He had a confused look. What does circumstance mean? He asked. That surprised them. It means how you got here, fucktard, Tayuya said. He glared at her, he hated jabs at his intelligence. He then explained everything he could remember leaving in the bit about him being a Jinchuriki, not seeing much of a point in hiding it. No wonder you don't remember, I didn't know it was Konoha protocol to seal away memories. A single unintended tear rolled down his cheek. But your story has confirmed quite a few things. Like what? He asked. The fact you're a Jinchuriki all but confirms your mother's identity, and the fact you have the willpower to carry someone as far as you did when you yourself were a hairpin away from dying from fatigue means you also might have their bloodline, she explained. What does me having a bloodline matter now? I'm dying, he shouted. That bloodline could save your life, if you unlock it, she claimed. Before he could ask for the details, she held up her hand to stop him. I can't explain anything more about your clans or bloodlines, until Tayuya-san agrees to let us seal her curse mark, the old woman stated, catching Tayuya's attention. What the hell, cough, just tell me, he coughed out. Her seal might have a sharing property that allows Orochimaru access to her mind, Arisa chimed in. I ain't got a problem, Tayuya said. Really, I thought it'd take more convincing than that? Chigusa asked with Arisa nodding in agreement. Nope, I was going to abandon him, after I failed my last mission. Tayuya answered and looked at Naruto. Fucktard and his friends stalled us too long and we ran out of time. Me, I never even met you before, Naruto claimed. We were enemies on our last mission, she answered. I was going to make a run for it, after I killed that pineapple fucker, when that bitch showed up and dropped a fucking forest on me. I see, so you already had plans to seal your curse mark, Tayuya nodded. Chigusa stood up and hobbled to the entrance with Arisa. We'll begin the sealing after you've rested properly. I'm sorry Naruto-san, but you'll have to wait just a little longer, she apologized and left. I'll bring you both something to eat later, Arisa promised, leaving the two of them alone. After Tayuya was sure they were gone, she spoke again. Fucktard, he ignored her. Hey fucktard, I'm talking to you, fucktard, fucktard. What the hell do you want? He asked annoyed. Why did you help me? She wondered. He looked at her and they locked eyes. Determined blue met determined brown. They stared silently at each other, before he looked away and closed his eye. Tayuya continued to look at him. I don't remember, she could tell he was lying. She vaguely remembered asking him that question before. Forget it, she turned away from him. Thanks, Naruto, she whispered, positive he didn't hear her. You're welcome, he answered to her surprise. Just stop calling me fucktard. She began whispering obscenities under her breath. Isn't that cute, Arisa thought before leaving to prepare their meals with a smile. Back in Konoha, Anbu torture and interrogation. Wakey, wakey, a woman shouted as she threw water on 9 unsuspecting individuals chained to a wall. They all shouted, Anko-senpai, Mikan said exhaustively, why are we here? Oh, playing dumb I see, Anko said, rubbing her chin inquisitively, that's not gonna help ya. We already found the bunker and know exactly what happened there, and I gotta say you chicks are sick, even by my standards. They were all shocked that someone found the bunker already. They assumed they would have at least a day to clean up and hide it before someone stumbled across it. Tsunade-sama isn't very happy with you all. She had a real soft spot for the brat. Anko grinned, laced with venom, and she has a few questions that need answering. Each of them witnessed her interrogation methods at one point or another, and their fear was evident. It was only compounded when Ibiki walked into the room and they promptly pissed themselves. I hope you enjoyed the sunrise, cause you'll never see another one, he said as he flew through a series of hand signs. Anko. She huffed her shoulders and snapped her fingers. The chains binding their prisoners unlocked and they fell to the floor on their knees. Kachiyose. Jigoku Daidakoro, summoning. Hell's Kitchen, he said. The world around them turned pitch black and flames grew and encircled the cell's inhabitants as a thorned cage felt, trapping them all inside. The temperature in the cage shot up tremendously, but the two interrogators were noticeably unfazed. 36 grotesque demonic hands slowly pierced through the darkness, then shot out, each grabbing one of the culprit's wrists and ankles. After all the hands were latched onto their targets, a giant shadowy figure grew out of the darkness behind Ibiki and Anko outside the cage. Its clawed hands reached out and grabbed the cage, like a child holding a present Christmas morning, as it opened its glowing red eyes. The hands began pulling them until they suspended in the air, inches off the ground. Anko saw the culprits sweat and drool all over themselves and grinned. It's okay to breath, she said, snapping them out of their trance, letting them remember how to breath again. This is how this jutsu works. Ibiki paused to get their attention. We will ask you questions. If you lie to us at any point, in any way, a pair of hands will let go. That means lie twice and all the hands holding you will let go. When that happens, you will be cooked alive in the fires below us. They all were too scared to answer, except one. Please, I'm innocent, it was their idea, Jiro claimed frantically. Anko and Ibiki both nodded as if they actually believed him, and the hands holding his ankles let go and disappeared. Jiro, be quiet, Kurumi ordered. Shut up, it's your fault we're in this. The hands holding his wrists let go and he fell onto the floor. They breathed a sigh of relief. Their friend didn't die. You tried to trick us, you bastard. I'm still Ali. He was cut by a sickening squashing sound. He heard his friends screaming and crying out his name, as he looked down and saw a bloody wooden stake. I didn't trick you, Ibiki informed him, much to Jiro's horror. He looked to Mao. Mao, I was all he could say before the demonic skewer pulled him in the fires below. She screamed his name and struggled against her bonds. She cried as she turned to Jiro's killers. I swear I'll kill you, Mao damned. Somehow I doubt that, Ibiki challenged. Haptism's Corner. If anyone's wondering what this section is, it's a library of custom jutsu made by yours truly. Kachiyose. Jigoku Daidakoro, Summoning, Hell's Kitchen. Rank B. Classification Ninjutsu, Spacetime Ninjutsu. Class Offensive, Supplementary. Range Short. Hand signs boar, dog, bird, monkey, ram. This jutsu was created by Ibiki Morino, head of Konohagakure torture and interrogation, for information gathering. The technique summons apparitions of demons to restrain and intimidate the target or targets. The temperature in this space is 95 degrees Fahrenheit to the targets. Anyone who can perform this technique are immune to the temperature shift. If a target remains silent after a question is asked for 2 minutes or lies to him twice, they are dropped into a raging inferno after being skewered in through the stomach. "Hello you two," Arisa greeted cheerfully. "As promised, I brought your meals." Naruto just looked at her, not having slept at all, while Tayuya groaned and faced her. She placed 2 steaming bowls on a table between their beds. She then undid the bindings keeping Tayuya's arms in place and helped raise her into sitting position. "Here, be careful, it's still pretty hot," she warned, handing Tayuya the steaming bowl of beef stew, before taking a seat next to Naruto with the other bowl in hand. "Here, say ah," she asked with a modest amount of stew in her spoon. He looked at her hesitantly before complying to her request. "It's pretty good," Arisa smiled at his comment. "Thank you, it's my specialty," she said. "Tastes like dog piss," Tayuya interjected, before gesturing to her curse seal. "When's the old skank gonna get to work, Lil, Miss Pedobear?" Arisa didn't take kindly to the remarks, but answered anyway. "She's working on the seals now," Arisa informed. "It should be ready by the time we make camp for the night." "What do you plan to do with us?" he asked. "Absolutely nothing," she answered, gesturing for him to open his mouth again. "Random kindness to a Jinchuriki, and a kunoichi with a bounty," Tayuya commented. "Do we look retarded?" "Just take it on faith," she suggested with a cheerful expression. "We're not going to turn either one of you in anywhere." "Is that really so hard to believe?" "Yes," they both deadpanned. "That's too bad," she paused, "but you're right in thinking we have other motives involving the both of you." "And they are?" Tayuya glared. "Grandmother can explain everything after the sealing, but," she paused. "But what?" he asked. "I can tell you both one thing," she answered. "What is it?" They both became impatient. "It's she drew them in with a smiled secret." "The fuck kinda answer is that?" Tayuya yelled. "You'll just have to wait and see," she said cheerfully as she walked towards the entrance. "Don't do anything I wouldn't do." She winked at them, before leaving their sight. "What's that slut think we're gonna do? Give each other a reach around?" she deadpanned. "Got me," he answered. "What do you think they're up to?" "Don't know, not like we can do a damn thing anyway." "I can't walk, and you?" She looked at him. "Well fuck." "Thanks, I really needed to hear that," he remarked sarcastically. Chigusa's quarters, in another part of the caravan. Chigusa sat formally at her desk, writing something with a brush. She held her loose sleeve in a way as not to mistakenly mess it with ink or smear her work, as Arisa entered her quarters. "Is it done?" the old woman asked. "Yes, I gave them their food, like you asked," Arisa reported. "They'll be asleep shorty." "Thank you, Arisa-chan. I doubt they would be able to sleep peacefully with their apprehension towards us," Chigusa stated as she continued writing. "Can you summon Matsu and Wabazuki for me? I have something I need taken care of." "Yes, grandmother," Arisa acknowledged before leaving. Several minutes later, she returned with a woman, a slightly taller man. The woman looked to be in her late teens to early 20s. She had hazel eyes with a pair of round glasses and long dark amber hair. The man next to her had dark hair with and looked to be in his mid-20s and wore box-framed glasses. "You called for us, Chigusa Baba?" Matsu asked. "Yes, you two are aware of our guests, correct?" she asked. "Of course, Elder," Wabazuki answered. "Word of their presence has spread throughout the troop." "That can be a problem." She stopped writing and rubbed her chin. "Arisa-chan, make sure to tell everyone there not to spoke of our guests from this point on. I have reason to believe trackers will be sent to capture them. I want you two to backtrack to the Tenchi Bridge and cover up our trail. Pay extra attention to the small details and especially sense. Konoha is famous for their trackers." Chigusa tosses them shredded orange and brownish tan articles of clothing. "These are our guests' old clothing. After you cover the trail, create a few false leads away from us." Matsu grabbed the clothes cautiously with a repulsed look on her face. Any specific direction? Matsu asked. I'll leave that to you, she answered, go quickly. They were about to leave when Chigusa asked for Arisa to stay. Matsu and Wabizuki left and began preparing for their mission. Meanwhile, Chigusa hands Arisa a scroll with a spiral seal on it. Send this scroll by messenger hawk to Master Katakura. Arisa was surprised to hear his name at this point. Grandmother, is this wise? We haven't even confirmed their identities or if they have the bloodlines yet? Arisa asked. They are who we think they are, Chigusa confirmed. When we visited them earlier, I checked them. Tayuya-sama is a legitimate member of her clan. Naruto-sama, however, may be the successor we've been waiting for. Arisa went stiff as a board and slowly looked down at the scroll in her hand. I'll send the scroll right away, she declared, before quickly dismissing herself. The dragons must be preserved, she sighed. Konoha's strict correctional facility, courtyard. Amongst the stone and piles of rubble where Konoha's heaviest offenders toiled away, a single serpent navigated itself past guard and prisoner alike. Its destination a certain occupant of the Konohagakure penal system. This one stood close to 6 feet, his long white hair and visage dirtied by his daily labors. The snake made its presence known only to him. The man seeing the snake kneels down conspicuously, as if to nurse an injury near his feet, and allowed the snake to slither up his sleeve and conceal itself where none would take notice. Kusa no Kuni, Tenchi Bridge. Matsu and Wabizuki arrived in the forested area on the High no Kuni side of the Tenchi Bridge. The road itself played host to an unusually high number of travelers and peddlers for the season. That would serve to their advantage. They had to be careful not to draw attention to themselves from any possible shinobi hiding in the crowd, so they changed out of their normal blue and red troop uniforms for more modest clothing with cloth knapsacks containing their gear. They each made sure not to wear their radios in the crowd for fear they may be spotted. Once they were prepared, they approached the road from a cliffside path next to the forest and blended into the crowd disguised as a couple. They followed the current of peddlers heading towards the Kusa no Kuni's main shipping lane and spoke quietly to one another so none but them could hear. This crowd's doing a fine job covering our trail and the air's thick with spice and perfumes, Matsu sneezed. Merchants and traders are thick in this area, Wabizuki stated. This road also branches off to Taki, Hai, Aim, Tsuchi, and serves as Kusa's main shipping lane. We could use the travelers to spread out leads over a wide area. While we finish masking the trails, she thought aloud, isn't Aim still a no-fly zone? Wabizuki nodded. They're extremely paranoid. Less than a dozen merchants and traders are allowed outside the country at any given time, he informed. We could make stronger leads to both Aim no Kuni and Tsuchi no Kuni, she figured. Konoha, Aim, and Iwa are enemy powers, so that would slow them down quite a bit. And buy us all the time we nay, he stopped. Their attention was immediately turned to shadows gliding through the woods. They made no action to display their awareness and continued conversing amongst themselves. Speak of the devil, those are Aim shinobi. Are they onto us, he wondered. It's something else, Matsu confirmed. They slowly scanned the immediate area for anything out of place. They're 11 o'clock, the brunette next to the cart with the sake barrels, she pointed out. They watched her and spied a slightly taller bald man, brushed against her hand. Matsu and Wabizuki noticed tiny rolled-up slips of paper being quickly exchanged through their fingers. Matsu smirked as a light blush tinted her cheeks. Maybe we can use this, she uttered as she left her companion for the woods. I'll meet you at the crossroad, be right back. He watched her walk off and had an idea of what she was planning. I better get started, he thought as he watched the bald man walk on ahead. 10 minutes later, in the forest next to the road, Matsu concealed herself with Doden. Mogaragakure no Jutsu, Earth Release. Hiding like a mole jutsu. And laid in wait watching the Aim shinobi leap past her. She was about to reveal herself and capture the last one when she saw him stop on a branch. He took out a kunai and marked the trunk of the tree he stood on. A marker? She spied, they must have some backup trailing. That means that girl's probably not one of their spies. Are they planning to ambush her or is there something else? Matsu decided to stay hidden and wait for the straggler. She didn't have to wait long for the last one to arrive. He landed on the same branch his friend had and looked at the marker. There you are, she grinned at her target. She slowly rose up out of the ground as he leapt away and began following him. Before he noticed her presence, she began another jutsu. Megan. Maigo ni Naite, demonic illusion, crying lost child, she whispered. Meanwhile, back with Wabazuki, on the main road. He continued to follow the bald man, careful not to make his intentions known. The man stopped next to a two-horse-drawn wagon with a tarp covering the cargo. He followed them to the crossroad, anxious to see where they were going. When the driver didn't turn the wagon, he knew where they were heading, the Tsuchi no Kuni border. He moved to intercept the wagon, keeping his hands concealed. Doden. Cage Bunshin. Earth release. Shadow clone. He created a clone underground and had it perform Doden. Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu. Earth release. Headhunter Jutsu. To grab one of the horse's hooves mid-stride and jerked it at a painfully awkward angle. The action caused the horse to buckle and injure itself before toppling over, taking the other horse and the wagon with it. Both the driver and passenger were catapulted from the wagon onto the hard ground. Some of the other travelers, who witnessed this, rushed over to help. Among those passerby was a doctor who aided the wagon's former occupants while others sought to right the wagon. Wabazuki and another man tended to the horses. There, he calmed the horse, before looking down. Can you keep her calm? The other man complied. Wabazuki knelt down on his knee and pulled out a haggard pieces of orange and tan cloth from his pack and double-tied them firmly, but not too tightly to the horse's ankle. It doesn't look broken, maybe she just tripped on something. The other man eyed the ground around the wagon and saw a small hole. He walked over to examine it. Yeah, looks like she'd trip in this pothole, the man announced. After righting the wagon and horses, the doctor helped the passengers back onto the wagon. I'd get yourselves and your horses checked out in the next town, it's not too far ahead, the doctor suggested. Thanks, we'll do that. The bald man agreed as he thanked the people around him. By this time Wabazuki had long faded into the crowds. With Matsu and the AIM shinobi, in the forest. Come on, you can last a little longer, Matsu goaded, or do you want to see my little friend? No please, anything but that, the AIM ninja cried, I can't take it anymore. That's really all you got? Matsu was annoyed as she put a tattered rag doll of her likeness grinning widely with serrated teeth back into her pack. I live in my mother's basement, my girlfriend left me for my sister, and I'm still a virgin, the quivering shinobi rambled. Matsu gave him a pathetic look. Whoa, I did not need to know that, she claimed as she broke off an extra thick branch from the tree above them. The AIM shinobi cringed when she approached him with an evil grin on her face. He curled up into the fetal position as her eyes seemed to glow a frightening red and her teeth jagged. Don't worry, you won't feel a thing. She looked ecstatic, drawing back the log in her grip. Her eyes half-lidded, sweat dripping down her face, with a crooked smile marring her face as she laughed maniacally. Say, good night, she bashed him over the head. She was careful not to kill him, he would have concussion at the very least, but that wasn't her problem. She pulled out a tag from her pack with the kanji for memory written on it and began a string of hand signs. Shisho Fuin Ryu. Yami no Shinraiku, 4-symbol seal style. Invading darkness. The tag in her hands stood erect as she placed the tag on his forehead. The kanji faded away after she placed it. She took back her tag and turned him over, so his face was in the dirt, and opened his pouch with his ninja tool. She dug in her pack and pulled out shards Naruto and Tayuya's clothing. She took out all off his kunai and shuriken and placed it on the ground. She tore both pieces of clothing, folded them thinly, and tucked them at the bottom of his pouch, before placing the tools back inside. She then took his ninja wire and removed his pants and scarf. She turned his pants inside out and used the ninja wire to quickly stitch the orange cloth to the region where his pouch was placed. After she finished, she put his pants back on and sewed the tan cloth to the middle part section of his scarf, before re-wrapping it around his neck. All done, she smiled at a job well done and was about to walk away, almost forgot. She turned around and tossed the branch she clocked him with, on top of him haphazardly. Now completely satisfied with a job well done, she left to catch up with her partner, before the unconscious mama's boy's friends showed up. Konoha's strict correctional facility, courtyard. The whistle blew signaling the prisoners it was time to return to their cells. They lined up in front of the entrance to the main facility where the guards would take their tools and check them over for anything that shouldn't be on them. The man with long white hair placed his hammer in a pile with the other hammers on the table where one of the guards kept inventory. He then proceeded down the corridor to a secondary station with more guards standing watch. "Place your hands in the circles and spread your legs," one guard ordered. He complied and placed his hands in the red circles on the walls and spread his legs. Two of the guards patted him down and checked his entire body. "He's clean," one guard confirmed. He was about to walk away when the guard grabbed his shoulder. "You're cut, get that checked out," he said, eyeing the prisoner's ripped sleeve and red-tinted bicep. "I will," the prisoner answered. He walked back to his cell and waited until after dinner to acknowledge the snake's presence. Soon the lights went out and only the moonlight and faint lighting from the balcony railings lit the prison cells. After the last guard passed, he stretched out his arm, beckoning the snake to reappear. Sure enough, the snake slithered out off his sleeve and regurgitated a purple message scroll. He unfurled it and began reading. "The time has finally arrived for you to be of use to me. I have forgiven you for failing to retrieve the forbidden scroll of seals, and now I have another mission for you. You are to retrieve Sasuke Uchiha from the Anbu detention wing near your location. I have arranged for you to be assisted by another one of my agents on duty the night after you retrieve this message. After you secure the boy, bring him to me. I will have a squad waiting for you both at the original meeting place. You know what your reward will be if you succeed or should you fail me again, Mizuki." "Yes, Lord Orochimaru," he grinned as he heard footsteps. The message and snake disappeared in a puff of smoke as two overly sized figures appeared outside Mizuki's cell. The spiraling emotion entertainment troupe campsite, Tsuchi no Kuni. A tall man in his mid-20s wearing oval-framed glasses with dirty blonde hair walked into Chigusa's quarter. He bowed to her and spoke. "Chigusa-sama, the area is prepared and we await your arrival," he informed. "Also Matsu and Wabizuki have returned. They are ready to report the mission." "Thank you, Hayate. Could you take these scrolls and align them to the ceiling array as well?" She passed him four the scrolls. "Have a barrier prepared as well. The last thing we need is you noticing what we're doing." He left her to finish his task. Matsu and Wabizuki entered after Hayate left. "I trust your mission was a success?" she asked. "Yes, everything went according to plan," Wabizuki reported. "Any hunter ninja will have great difficulty following us. We created leads into AIM and further into Tsuchi away from this location." "Perfect," she smiled and nodded cheerfully. "Also, we encountered some AIM ninja during the mission. They weren't aware of our presence and I was able to extract some information from one of them," Matsu said. Chigusa quirked an eyebrow and wondered what she found out. "What kind of information?" she asked. "Apparently the Tsuchi Kage has a mission request for them. They were making contact with one of his agents on the shipping lane," her report intrigued Chigusa. "Do you know what the mission is?" Matsu shook her head. "Sorry, if I tried to secure that bit of intel, I would have been forced to reveal myself," she answered. "Too bad," Chigusa shrugged. "You two completed the main assignment and came back with a bonus. Why don't you grab some dinner and call it a night? After the sealing we will be leaving." They both bowed to her and wished her a good night before departing. With Arisa in Naruto and Tayuya's quarters. Arisa had just finished unbinding Tayuya from the bed. She shook her softly and quietly asked her to wake up, so Naruto wouldn't hear her. The sleeping drug she gave them earlier had long since wore off and slowly she began to stir. "Tayuya-san, it's time to start the sealing," she opened her eyes. Once Arisa saw Tayuya open her eyes, she ushered over two men each dressed in the troop's uniform. The two carefully lifted Tayuya off the bed and placed her in a stretcher beside it. They carried her out of her quarters and headed towards the wooded area next to the camp. This was the first time Tayuya had seen the outside in some time and she took advantage of it. She saw little campfires and what looked to be little families huddled around cooking and laughing together. When the two men carried her by them, they all stopped talking amongst themselves and stared at her. But what was strange was they didn't have the scared or angry looks she had experienced throughout her life. They all had a strange expression between shocked and happy, like were looking at some long-lost family member they hadn't seen in decades. She heard children whisper questions to their parents. "Mommy, is that her?" And, "Who's that lady, Dad?" were spread around. Each question was hushed by said parent. This awkward pattern continued until she was out of their sight. As they entered the woods, she got a broader view of the campsite and saw oxen being fed next to a large train-like trailer. Before she could focus on any of its details, her view was obstructed by the trees. They entered deep the woods into a small clearing, where Chigusa stood with two other men. In the center of the clearing, two circles with 4 scrolls stretching through the center were pinned down with kunai. They sat her down in front of the old woman, where the scrolls intersected. A tall blonde man waved for the other men to follow him and they disappeared in the woods. Tayuya noticed they didn't head to the camp, but instead spread out around the clearing until they formed a box perimeter. Tayuya was brought out of her observations when Arisa grabbed the front of her kimono and gently pulled it down, revealing her chest for the world to see. A shotacon with lesbian urges, Tayuya snidely smirked. Mommy and Daddy must be so proud. Tayuya saw Arisa blush a little, before smiling back at her. You know, I was wondering why you were so rude all the time. She looked down a bit, but now I see why. Tayuya didn't understand what she was talking about, until she followed Arisa's gaze to her chest and instantly understood. Arisa stood up and stretched, while making subtle gestures that she had the superior equipment compared to Tayuya. They'll be sagging any day now, Granny, she countered. That's enough, Chigusa ordered. Arisa, help me. Arisa crouched back down and started drawing seals on Tayuya's front side while Chigusa did the back. While they wrote the seals, Tayuya sat perfectly still, watching them and assessing their skills. Hayate, she called and the tall blonde man nodded. Begin, ordered Hayate the other men. Shikakureta Hashira, 4 concealed plurs. They all shouted as they slammed their hands together. They each gave off a blue aura for a split second, before a ray of light stretched out from each of them, and connected to the other, enclosing the clearing. When the rays of light were connected, a new light shot skyward from each man, then angled itself towards the center. The clearing was now locked in a pyramid-shaped barrier, concealed by the treeline of the surrounding woods. Tayuya observed this and continued assessing them. The barrier they're using is weaker than the Maishishi engine, 4 Violet Flames battle encampment. But it's the same type and it's a collaboration jutsu. They must have had teamwork drills or maybe squad training. Then there's these two. She looked down at Arisa writing seals quickly on her. I thought this bitch was a medic. She writing too cleanly to be new to Fuinjutsu. She's had a lot of training, same for the old bitch. I'm sure she's blind, but to be able to sense and seal my curse seal, she must be a master. So why the fuck are they helping me? Tayuya-san, are you alright? You seem awfully nervous, Arisa asked, sensing her anxiety. Just hurry the fuck up, pedo, she scowled. Arisa sighed and got back to work. After a few minutes they finished the last of the seals and a wrinkled hand reached over shoulder. These pills will temporarily suppress your chakra and ease the strain on your body a little. Tayuya looked at the pills wearily before popping them in her mouth and swallowing. Are you ready? Tayuya took a deep breath. Just do it, she answered. Chigusa began a series of 20 hand signs and placed her hand on Tayuya's curse seal of Danzumaru and focused her chakra. Fuja Hoing, evil sealing method, the old woman called. Tayuya screamed as the pain erupted from the back of her neck. The fresh inscriptions on her body lifted themselves off her skin along with the ones written in the scrolls and began converging on the glowing curse seal. Once all of the inscriptions encircled the curse seal, they compressed themselves and the curse seal stopped glowing. The back of Tayuya's neck throbbed and pulsed with small spikes of pain, but as the throbbing stopped so did the pain. Arisa gently put Tayuya's kimono back on and laid her down on the ground. Tayuya was slowly losing grip of her consciousness. Kai, Hayate released the barrier as they all breathed a sigh of relief. The men returned back to the center and started rolling up the scrolls. Arisa had just helped Tayuya back on the stretcher and asked the two of them to help carry the young redhead back to camp. We will continue our conversation when you awake in the morning, Tayuya-sama, the old woman promised. Return her to her quarters. The men bowed and carried her away. Tayuya-sama? She thought being carried away. Kiba no Kuni, unknown compound. Guards at the gate stood by watching rice fields of the surrounding area, sometimes nodding off in the night's silence, when a large shadow caught their attention. They looked up and saw hawks soar over the walls and land on the watchtower on the far side of the compound. The guard in the watchtower took the message attached to the hawk's talon. He saw the scroll had a spiral seal and knew who it was for and from. He ran down the flight of stairs to the courtyard, past the others guarding the large courtyard. He ignored the guards and ran straight through a large dojo to the back garden. When he arrived, he saw a man standing in the moonlight with formal white robes with a katana in hand, surrounded by 6 light stone lanterns. His breathing was slow, almost non-existent. He rose his blade slowly in his left hand and gripped it with his other. He slowly tilted the blade and angled across his face from the left side as his stance lowered. The moonlight gleamed off the blade and twitched ever so slightly. The guard was glued in place. He blinked and the man gone, leaving only a trail of dust. He followed the trail of dust and saw the man outside the circle of lanterns with his blade thrust out in front of him. The guard suddenly remembered why he's there and approached the man in white. "Master Katakura," he called. The man in white turned his attention towards the guard. "You have a message from Chigusa-sama." Katakura took the scroll and began reading to himself. The guard watched his master's expression for any trace of bad news. Katakura's face suddenly became very stern. "You," he looked at the guard, "get someone to help you clean up this mess. We have preparations to make." He walked off leaving the dumbfounded guard. "Mess?" He looked around. He was about to leave when the heads of each lantern suddenly split down the middle, before crashing onto the sandy terrain with a light thump, leaving each of the candle light and untouched. The spiraling emotion entertainment troupe. The following morning, Naruto began to stir from his deep sleep, when the light of the sun shined down on his uncovered eye and a playful tone filled the air. He slowly opened his groggy eye and looked to where the sound was coming from. He gazed at a person standing at his bedside and blinked a few times to force the sleep away. The tone was coming from Arisa as she tended to his bandages with his blanket removed. He looked from her to his body to assess his own damage. He was surprised to see that aside from his triceps his entire body was wrapped in tightly in bandages. Arisa felt him twitch when she finished wrapping his arm and looked up. Finally awake, she said, "You slept the whole day away. Tayuya-sama's curse seal is already sealed and once grandmother arrives we can finally answer any questions you may have." She was remarkably cheery considering she was likely tending to a paraplegic. He tried to shift his body over a little to get out of the sun, but couldn't so much as move a muscle. She saw him trying to move his head out of the light, so she walked over to the head of his bed and stood on her toes to close the opening where the light was hitting him. While thankful she closed the opening, he unintentionally got an awfully long glance of her round bottom and blushingly averted his gaze away to where Tayuya was laying intently reading a bottle, before placing it back on the table. "There, do you feel better now?" Arisa looked down at him. "I still can't feel my everything, if that's what you mean," he deadpanned. "Good, that means the medicine's working," she claimed as she gently stuck an IV in his wrist. "You'll feel like that for a while, about a month give or take." Naruto did not like that answer, but before he could say anything she moved around the bed to the table between him and Tayuya. She took the bottle Tayuya was reading from the table and placed 2 pills on her hands. "Here, open wide." She gestured for him to open his mouth and whispered, "They'll help you recover." He looked at her oddly and took the pills. "Are you two done playing grab ass?" Tayuya spoke. "When's the old bitch gonna get here?" "She'll be here in a bit," she answered. "Do you two want something to eat while you wait?" "How about a nice helping of get her crusty old ass in here?" Tayuya answered, her irritation blatant in her voice. "That will hardly be necessary." The old woman arrived without any of them noticing. Arisa moved out of her way and set a chair down between the 2 patients. "I believe you both have questions for me?" she asked, with a tad bit of sarcasm. Tayuya was about to ask when Naruto beat her to the point. "Who are my parents, who are you people, and what is my bloodline?" He bombarded the old woman. The old woman expected these questions and answered them accordingly. "I believe your mother was Uzumaki Kushina, the previous Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I don't know who your father is, but judging from your appearance, I'd say Namikaze Minato, the Yellow Flash." Tayuya looked at him and burst out laughing. "Stubby here's the red-hot habanero and the Yellow Flash's son." She started laughing again, but stopped when she felt her chest contract painfully. "Yeah right, he didn't believe her assessment. How would you know?" Naruto referenced her blind condition. "You do favor him a lot, Naruto-sama," Arisa consigned. "That's my best guess," the old woman affirmed. "Spiky blonde hair and blue eyes are a rare combination for anyone. The only Konoha ninja I've ever seen with that combination was Minato Namikaze." He thought back to his time in the village, and realized he never saw anyone with features similar to him. "They both dead during the Kyuubi incident." Chigusa paused, and most Jinchuriki have always had some connections to the reigning village leader. For your time it would have been him. Naruto was gaping. The chances of the Yondaime Hokage being his dad just skyrocketed. Your mother was originally from Uzu Shiogakure in the former Uzu no Kuni. She was the third child of the Uzumaki clan head. The Uzumaki clan was renowned for their mastery of Fuinjutsu, which led to its destruction, she explained. Your grandfather and aunt stayed behind and helped many of Uzu's people evacuate. When Uzu fell, many of the clans and citizens were scattered across the elemental nations. Unfortunately, members of the Uzumaki clan were hunted down and eliminated. Your uncle, Master Yajima, took your mother to Konoha. When she was safe, he left to find any other survivors. Sadly, he died almost 15 years ago. This troop owe him a debt we could never repay. What did he do for you? He wondered. Most of the people in this troop are the survivors Master Yajima rescued, she answered. He opened his clan's knowledge of Fuinjutsu to us to help us survive. Are there any Uzumaki here? She shook her head sadly. Are there any Uzumaki left? Some time ago, during the Second Shinobi War, we got word of a small family of Uzumaki living in Aim no Kuni. That inspired some hope, but when we finally arrived they were already made casualties of the war. For all we know, you're the last Uzumaki. What kind of Kekai Genkai did his clan have? Tayuya asked before the grief could set in. Not the Uzumaki clan, she corrected, only the main branch possessed the Dokuganryu, one-eyed dragon, bloodline. What's the Dokuganryu? He asked. It's a Kekai Genkai that enabled the possessor to alter the physical and spiritual energies in their bodies with mental energy, to create an energy fundamentally different from chakra. Its users also have a talent for shape manipulation jutsu. I remember certain clan members being able to create chains, blades, and other things out of chakra. If memory serves, your grandfather was the only one who completely unlocked it, she thought back, even though it scared him to death. What could be so scary about that? Tayuya chimed in. I, unfortunately, do not know. Master Yajima never went into the details and he was very cryptic about it. He told me, his father always said he wasn't supposed to have the ability, that it was waiting for someone who could succeed the old dragons. Whatever that meant, she ignored their curious faces and continued. We plan on taking advantage of your Kekai Genkai to help restore your chakra network. But to make sure the process goes smoothly, I've contacted one of the only people in the world who has intimate knowledge of your bloodline. Why would someone from outside his clan know secrets about their bloodline? Tayuya knew secrets like that were always heavily guarded. Naruto-sama's Kekai Genkai doesn't originate from the Uzumaki clan. Naruto was surprised to hear that. It was integrated into the main branch through marriage. During the Sengoku period when the hidden villages first started to form, a man went to Uzu Shiogakure seeking asylum. It was granted and he joined the village. Eventually he fell in love and married the Uzumaki clan head's only daughter. Dude had balls, Tayuya interjected, classic spy maneuver. And normally we would agree, if she were from any one other clan, she paused, but Uzumaki women tend to have very destructive personalities. This woman in particular tended to eviscerate things when she got excited. He was no exception. She was the butch, he was the bitch. Tayuya looked at Naruto. Your family was a bunch masochists. Naruto didn't know how to respond to that. If anything, it made way too much sense. Anyway, the bloodline originated from that man. The person we're going to see is a descendant of that man's vassals, she claimed. He is also a good friend of your grandfather. Okay, I just have one last question, he stated. You knew my mom, what was she like? I only saw her when she was a child, but I'm positive I have a bingo book with her picture in it. When she was a child, she reminisced, she was temperamental, easily excitable, tomboyish and a chatterbox. She was also a little on the chubby side, coupled with her hairstyle made her look a lot like Big Red Tomato. She always shouted, "Databane," when she got excited. That sounds like me, he sighed. This is a lot to take in. Don't worry, everything will be made clear when we arrive, she assured when a loud whistling sound turned their attention to fiery redhead in the other bed. When we arrive where? Tayuya asked. Where this fuck you taking us to? We're going to Kiba no Kuni, Tayuya-sama, Arisa answered. I see why you call him that, she pointed at Naruto, but why the hell are you calling me that? Why the fuck are you helping me? Tayuya-sama, do you recall what I said to you about sound jutsu? She nodded. During the Sengoku period all the way up to the Second Great War, There was only one clan to have knowledge of sound-based jutsu. They were called the Asagiri. They were masters of genjutsu and possessed the Kyushin Katsuzui, resonating bone, Kekai Genkai, which you have. Tayuya stared blankly at her. I call bullshit, she said. If I had a Kekai Genkai, Orochimaru would have made me one of his sick-ass experiments. Perhaps he was more occupied with more obvious Kekai Genkai. Tayuya thought about the old woman's claim and instantly several people popped into her mind. The horny fag brothers, the inbred spider, the human boner, that censor Shiz-Ho, and that Uchiha fuckboy were the first in a long list. I can believe that, she deadpanned, but what does that have to do with you? When Uzu was being attacked, we asked for aid from Konoha and several unaffiliated clans, she explained. Konoha was spread thin with its operations against AIM, K's, and Iwa, while most of the clans ignored our request. If it wasn't for Lady Rebecca of the Asagiri clan, we would not have lasted as long as we did. Who's this Rebecca chick? She asked. Chigusa asked Arisa to retrieve the books from her quarters. Lady Rebecca was the head of the Asagiri and lead a small force of ninja to aid Uzu, she said. At the time she was one of the most feared women in the elemental nations. Arisa arrived with a small stack of books. She took a few books and ran her hand over them. This is a bingo from the just before the Second Great War. She handed it to Tayuya, and gave Arisa the other. Naruto-sama. This book is from the Third Great War. She gave the book to Arisa to show Naruto. I think you both will be pleasantly surprised at what you find on the marked pages, she clued them in. Tayuya flipped to the marked page and saw a picture of a woman with dark auburn hair in light blue and black robes, holding up her middle finger with her tongue sticking out. Asagiri no Rebecca. Alias. 2-hand. Female. Age. 25. Height. 5.7 feet. Rank. S. Bounty. 100 million alive, 50 million dead. Notable. Current head of the Asagiri clan and possessed the Kyushin Katsuzui bloodline. Genjutsu, Taijutsu specialist. Kiretsuan Ken, cracking sound fist, master. Under no circumstance are you to engage at close range, known to cause opponents to spontaneously combust. Nature affinity. Fire. Earth, presumed. Affiliates. Okajima Rokuro aka Tazagare, Twilight. Weapons. Senbon with bells, demonic flute. Known jutsu. Utaupou. Atokoken, Utaupou. Atokosho, Mateki. Genbuso Kyoku. Mateki. Mugen Onsa, Kachiuse. Doki, Kushios. Bat. Megan. Jigoku Koka no Jutsu. Megan. Gensu Kane. Utaupou. Kurai-o, Utaupou. Nionpa. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu. Kaden. Goryuka no Jutsu. Doden. Iwagakure no Jutsu. Doden. Mogaragakure no Jutsu. This was one bad bitch. Tayuya was thoroughly impressed. Spontaneously combust? One of the abilities of that particular clan was Utaupou, singing arts. They could resonate their bones to the destruction frequency of their target. She balled up her fist and opened it, and boom. That is the most kick-ass thing I've ever heard, she exclaimed, before rereading the page, but this time something jumped out her. Hold the fuck up. Everyone, except Naruto, turned to her. I knew a few assholes back in Auto that used Senbon with bells and the Gensu Kane Jutsu, illusionary bells. Did they have a flute like yours? Chigusa asked. They were given to all Asagiri newborns. Fuck no, she answered, I was the only one. That genjutsu was a favorite amongst the Asagiri, like the Uchiha and the Gukakyu no Jutsu, Great Fireball Jutsu. They wouldn't have taught it anyone, she pondered. That could mean that Orochimaru might have gotten his hand on the clan's forbidden scroll from someone. Or he killed everyone and just walked away with it. Tayuya spoke from intimate knowledge of how he worked. He'd probably kept me around, so he could dissect me later. I will make arrangements to locate the Asagiri clan scrolls, Chigusa promised. Arisa turned back and looked at Naruto, who hadn't said a word the entire conversation. She saw he was staring at something with the softest expression she had ever seen on his face. She followed his line of sight to the book she accidentally dropped and nestled itself in a propped-up possession between the bed and table, giving him a clear view of the contents. There was a picture of a woman, a red-haired woman with brown eyes and soft features. It looked like she was running on water, about to do a jutsu with her index and middle finger on both hands crossed. Next to her picture was a name in big bold letters, Uzumaki Kushina. Uzumaki Kushina. Alias. Red Hot Habanero. Female. Age. 24. Height. 5.4 feet. Rank. A. Bounty. 30 million alive or dead. Notable. Survivor of the Uzumaki clan of Uzushiogakure, possesses immense chakra reserves and stamina. Able to create chains out of her chakra to restrain and or eliminate targets. Skilled in fuinjutsu and proficient in trapping and infiltration. Approach with extreme caution. Nature affinity. Water. Fire. Affiliates. Uzumaki Yajima. Namikaze Minato. Aburame Shibi. Akamichi Shuza. Jiraiya. Weapons. Ninja Wire. Tanto. Portable water scroll. Known Jutsu. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Sweden. Mizu Bunshin. Sweden. Hanryu. Sweden. Suiryuden. Sweden. Tepudama. Sweden. Uzushiogakure no Jutsu. Sweden. Suijinheki. Bunshin Deibakuha. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu. Kaden. Goryuka no Jutsu. Kaden. Zukaku. Kaden. Ryuka no Jutsu. That's my mom. He teared up as he continued staring at her page. She's pretty. Do you need a moment, Naruto-sama? She asked. No, I feel fine. He composed himself. Where are we going again? We're going to Kiba no Kuni to meet with someone who can help both of you, she answered. Yes, his assistance will greatly benefit both of you. Master Katakura is also an old friend of your grandfather, Naruto-sama, Chigusa added. A message has already been sent to him. He should be preparing for our arrival. The old woman took a whiff of the air and rose from her chair. Breakfast is about finished. We'll bring you both something to eat and continue our talks. She bowed slightly and walked off. Arisa grabbed the pill bottles and bowed to them as well, before leaving. Naruto and Tayuya both let out heavy sighs and glanced at each other. How you feel about all this? He asked. Like someone ran up in my house, stole all my shit, slipped me a roofie, reamed me and left me with my ass waving in the air. You? She stated. I don't feel damn thing, he said, smirking. He felt content for the first time in a long time, and Tayuya noticed. You probably didn't feel anything looking at the pedo's ass either, Stubby, she stated. I thought you were gonna start using my name, he remarked. Why are you calling me Studdy anyhow? The pills Lil Miss Pedo Bear gave you make sure pecker won't work till she says so. She saw the shocked look on his face and gave him the most evil grin he'd ever seen. May as well eat your man card and start drawing pretty pink flowers, unicorns, and lollipops on those bandages, Stubby. He asked her a dozen questions, but instead of answering she turned her back to him, covered herself in the blanket. Payback's a bitch, she thought, with one person in mind. Konoha's strict correctional facility, Anbu Ward. Iniki, what smells so good? A voice asked. Two large figures stood peering outside Mizuki's cell. Oh Fujin, Raijin, come on in, he waved. I got some treats for ya. Fujin grabbed hold of the bars and bent them into an entrance to the cell. Mizuki walked over the corner of his cell, at the end of his cot, and slid open a rock panel. He reached inside and pulled out a large box, then slid it across the floor to the Bulbous brothers' feet. Go ahead guys, dig in, he offered as he ate a dumpling. Without question the brothers tore open the box and began scarfing down the dumplings. They ate the majority of the dumplings without a word until Mizuki spoke. Tell me, is it to your liking? They continued eating. I'll take that as a yes. There's plenty more, you know. They stopped eating and turned their attention to Mizuki. I should have known that delicious smell was coming from your cell, Iniki, Fujin said. Yeah, you allows figure out how to get the tastiest food for us, Iniki, Raijin agreed. Well, it took a lot of sneaking around, but it was definitely worth it, Mizuki spoke. I would feel absolutely terrible if my brothers had to go hungry. You're the best, they both declared as they bowed before him. We're lizards. They laughed. Mizuki chuckled along with them. You're too funny, he stood up, but even so, you must still be hungry. What would you say if I could get you even more delicious food? Food, where? They looked around the cell for more treats. I know a place where there is far more delicious treats, Mizuki coaxed them. Where's that, Iniki? Raijin asked. Mizuki looked down at them with a fake surprised expression. Oh, do you guys want to come with me? he asked, to which the brothers nodded vigorously. Let's go then, but there is one thing we have to do first. What's that, Aniki? Raijin's stomach growled, I'm hungry. Someone else wants to come with us, he smiled. Harut's corner. Megan. Maigo ni Naite, demonic illusion, crying lost child. Rank. B. Classification. Genjutsu. Class. Supplementary. Range. Short, medium. Parent jutsu. Demonic illusion, hell viewing technique. A double-layered genjutsu designed to play on the subconscious traumas of the targets. When the first layer is breached, the target is trapped in a prison of their own making. When introduced to unfamiliar stimuli, i.e. enemy ninja, the target regresses to a childlike state of mind while retaining memories of adulthood, making them easier to manipulate and interrogate. Shisho Fuin Ryu. Yami no Shinraiku, 4-symbol seal style, invading darkness. Rank. A. Classification. Fuinjutsu, Kinjutsu. Class. Supplementary. Range. Short. A sealing technique used to implant memories and/or suggestions into the subject's subconscious. Varying from the amount of chakra the user uses when activating the seal, can determines the time frame the seal affects as well as long-term effects, which can include orders from eliminating the subject's own family to falsifying mission reports. When used effectively, with high enough levels of chakra, this jutsu can create sleeper agents and spies who are unaware they're spies for as long as 10 years. No evidence of this jutsu use has been seen outside the Uzumaki clan and is presumed lost. Shikakureta Hashira, 4 concealed plurs. Rank. C. Classification. Ninjutsu, Kekai Ninjutsu. Range. Short, medium. A 4-person collaboration barrier jutsu used to soundproof and concealed chakra signatures in a small area from sensor-type shinobi. Megan. Gensu Kane, demonic illusion. Illusionary bells. Kin's jutsu from the Chunin exam.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.